Hey, welcome to today's video. I'm Richard Chapo. I'm an internet lawyer in San Diego, California. I've been advising online businesses for about 20 years. So today's video is on the topic of the U.S. national privacy law. Will we get a U.S. national privacy law in 2019? Now, if you'd asked me this question a couple years ago, I would have probably laughed and said, no, there's no way. There's no political motivation to do it. And if you just look at politics in general in Washington, D.C., they're not going to be passing something like this. But the times, they are changing. And so basically what we are looking at is a very unique situation where advocates for personal privacy and advocates for business are actually united on something. And to understand why, we need to look at the current status of privacy law in the United States. So we do not have a general national privacy law in the United States. Most countries do. The vast majority of them do, but we do not, which is kind of odd when you think about some of the tenets of our government and some of the things we believe in. But nonetheless, we do not have one. We do have national privacy laws for specific subjects. So, for instance, HIPAA with health records, that's a national privacy law, but it deals only with health records. It doesn't deal with other types of information. We have the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, which is an internet law, and it says basically that you need verified parental consent before you can collect information from kids under 13 years old online. So we do have some of those, but again, no national privacy law. And that really didn't seem to be that big of a deal for a long time. Nobody, you didn't see a lot of marches on Washington demanding privacy rights. But things started to change, as the internet and big data became more well known. And then obviously in Europe, they are a little more in favor of bureaucracy and government regulations. And they eventually got around to enacting a new privacy law. They hadn't done one since 1995. And at that point, it was even just a directive. It wasn't actually a regulation. But in 2018, May 2018, Europe put the General Data Protection Regulation into effect, the GDPR. And it is draconian. There's no other way to describe it. It is an absolutely brutal privacy law. And it completely changes the game as far as how privacy is going to be approached in Europe. You need a legal basis to collect information. There's all kinds of data you cannot collect. You have to provide certain information, in your privacy policy and this, that, and the other. And the intent behind the law is good. I don't have any problem with that. It's just the specific language in the law and the requirements are ludicrous. But nonetheless, it was enacted, and for companies and, for instance, my clients who sell products or services into the EU, compliance became an issue. And today it still is. We're still seeing, how it's going to be enforced and what they want to see in relation to different aspects of the GDPR. But generally speaking, not fun. But that's in Europe. So who really cares? Does that mean, when it was enacted, did that mean that the U.S. Congress was going to get off of its rear end and start, going after a national privacy law? And most of us would say no. Most of us in the legal field, I certainly did. But then a funny thing happened. States. And when it comes to internet law and internet legal issues, the states tend to jump out in front of the federal government. I'm not necessarily sure why, but there are a number of different states that will go out and pass privacy laws. And that's what we've seen. And so in California, we have the California Consumer Privacy Act, which has been described as GDPR Light. It is a new privacy law that goes into effect on January 1st, 2020. And it is, similar to the GDPR in some ways and not similar in others. But it is taking more of that type of approach where there's much more required in regard to disclosures, record keeping, tracking. Most sites are going to be required to have an 800 number where people can call in to request that their information be changed or deleted or what have you. And so it's a pretty radical change to approach to privacy in the United States, certainly much different than what we had before. And of course, if California did it, then a bunch of other states are going to do it as well. And I don't even know what the count is at this point. Something like 23, 24 states are now rushing to enact their own privacy laws. So this creates a problem, just a practical one. If every state has its own privacy law and every state has different requirements and rules and what have you, well, it becomes a bit difficult to comply with them all. Quite frankly, we're going to end up with a privacy policy that's going to be something like a small phone book. it's just becoming a bit ludicrous. And so for a lot of us who were doubtful of a national privacy law, we're starting to come around to the idea, because the current status that we're seeing is creating a unique situation where, again, advocates for individual rights and individual privacy rights are actually lining up with businesses, with Googles and Facebooks and all the large internet providers that would be interested in this law. And the reasons are different, but it doesn't really matter. The individuals, they want to be protected, and the businesses want one law. So, in fact, we had a Senate Judiciary hearing on March 12th, 2019 on this topic. Should we have a U.S. national privacy law? What should go into it? These kinds of things. And there were a lot of different advocates from a lot of different groups. I'll post a link down in the description. It'll be on YouTube. If you're watching this video on another site, you'll need to click through to go to YouTube to see it. But the link actually contains a video of the hearing. It's 2 hours plus of riveting stuff, but nonetheless, you can get an idea for what people are saying and the different groups are advocating for. The general themes that came out of it were people desire data protection. All the breaches and everything are very, very, very worrying. And so they want people to address, or they want the law to address those. And then the second aspect is businesses are looking for a solution to all these states passing different requirements. They want one national law. And that's important. And just so we're clear, if the United States passes a national privacy law, general privacy law, well, it's going to trump all of the state laws. No pun intended. But basically, the concept is if the federal government has passed a law on a topic, a state cannot pass a law that conflicts with that or requires certain expansions of that law, if you will. The states can pass laws that kind of deal with issues right around the edge of the national law, but they can't circumvent the main thrust of that national law. So if Congress was to, in fact, write and pass a U.S. national privacy law, and President Trump was to sign it here in 2019, well, we'd be good to go. Businesses would be happy. I think the advocates for personal data protection would be happy. And so it's, you can see how it could come together. How quickly, and is it actually in 2019? Who knows? But I think we're probably going to get something here pretty soon. So that's actually pretty good. And again, if you'd asked me this 2 years ago, I would have said no way. But now I'm all in favor of it. I certainly don't want to go read the privacy laws of 50 different states. You can only imagine how much fun that would be. So a U.S. national privacy law in 2019, I am hopeful. If not, probably early 2020. We've reached a point where it can no longer be avoided, and it almost doesn't matter what it says, because it will be better than having 50 different laws in the states here in the United States. So if you have any questions or comments, post them below. Again, I'll post a link to the Senate hearing, so you can watch that if you're interested in it. If you enjoyed the video, consider giving us a thumbs up. And obviously, as an internet lawyer, I publish videos on a variety of internet topics. So if you own a website or an app or some other type of internet business, consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching. Have yourself a good one.